Hello and welcome to Dreams of Wings, and welcome here to Kjeller, I hope I pronounced that right, in southern Norway. And I just know this is going to be a beautiful flight. Norway is a gorgeous country. We're going to see some great terrain. The weather is very, very good today. This is live weather. Absolutely nothing really in the way of wind here anyway, and cloud. Gorgeous clear skies, and we are flying a very special aircraft as well. This is a repaint by Sprool of PL258, which is a restoration project that's being undertaken by the Norwegian Spitfire Foundation. I'll put a link to the repaint down below so you can grab it, because it's Sproul has done a beautiful job with this. It really does look quite fine. And the wreckage was actually found in Holland, and that's what they're working on to bring it back to life. It's wonderful to have a repaint like this in the simulator. Of course, it represents the sacrifice and the efforts of the Norwegian pilots during World War II, and is kind of serves as a symbol as well for Norway of having been occupied, the ability to somehow fight back, and fight back they certainly did. And Sproul has just done a gorgeous job of it. It's a cracking aircraft, it really is. So it's going to be a huge pleasure to fly this, and of course wishing the Norwegian Spitfire Foundation all the best luck and best fortunes to bring this aircraft back to life, because at the end of the day, as much as they are fun to fly, they also serve to remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice. Right, let's hop in, let's get flying. Well, let's get these elliptical wings into the air. So let's just close the hatch, leave that on the latch there, just check my physical controls. Yep, that's all good. Right, so let's have prop fully forward, mixture fully rich, just crack the throttle. I'm going to select radiator flap open, manually open as we're on the ground. Let's have some fuel on, just crank the throttle forward a bit just so we get some power. See, we've got our fuel pressure warning on, so let's pump up the fuel. I do love this Spitfire, I just need to fly it more. Give it a few more just for luck. And mags on. Let's prime. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's see where that gets us. So mags on, that's all set. And good. Clear prop. Well, she's certainly spitting fire, but she isn't starting, so let's give her some more prime. There we go. Oh, steady. I have noticed, let's just come back on the throttle a bit. I have noticed, even though the brakes are on in this Spitfire, I can't quite nail when it actually started happening, but quite often it will have that tendency to, because the torque, have that tendency to turn on the ground. So I've throttled us right back. There we go, and then we can warm up nicely. Okay, so let's lock the primer, close that. Everything else is looking good. T's and P's are looking fine. We have got a fair amount of travel to do with regards to being able to take off into wind, so I'm going to do that now. I'm going to put the, there we go, put the fuel pump on. That's all good. Right, let's get taxiing. Temperature's good enough so that we can do that before everything goes mad. Okay. So what we're going to have to do is actually backtrack on the runway, but I've not got multiplayer on and I haven't got any AI on, so we should be good to go with that. Yeah, it's crazy to think the amount of time I spend in the Spitfire, or used to rather, and now I'm flying so many other things, especially helicopters, that I find that whenever I get back into the Spitfire I'm always a little bit rusty, especially with doing a nice kind of curved approach and landing. So we'll see how this goes. Right, quick look over there, nothing coming, so nothing up there, so we are going to backtrack. I'd be worried if there was something coming along. Rucksack you see is giving us these lovely autumnal trees. It'd be interesting to see what the scenery looks like up into the mountains. There we go, just keeping along this edge here so that I can almost use the centre line there. This is where head tracking just really does come into its fore, when you can taxi like this in a nose dragger like the Spit. Keeping an eye out, sticking your head out the window. It is beautiful. I get so excited when I'm flying the Spitfire in the sim. Just that view down the nose and then looking out over the elliptical wing is quite stunning. A real treat. And I always think I should be flying this all the time. Keep it coming down here. So this Kjeller is actually available on flightsim.to by a developer. It's let me just have a quick look over, make sure I pronounce it correctly. So it looks like maybe it's pronounced Dagby, but it's D-A-G-H-B. But I'll put a link down below. Kjeller is a kind of a joint civilian military base, as you often find up here in Norway. No, I'm going to go a little bit further down. I thought for a moment there we might be at the threshold, but we're not. There's some cracking air shows here. You look on YouTube, you can see it must be a wonderful place to actually come and visit. Right, quick look at the temperatures. Temperatures are getting rather warm, as they do in the Spit. I have got the radiator manually open, just to make sure we're making best use of that. Coming over to the left here, and then we will kick around and line up. There we go. Not going to do a run up because we're going to imagine that we've already done that. We've already done a flight, and I just want to get us in the air with the minimum of checklisty kind of stuff. Right, we'll put one notch nose down using the Authenticate trim wheel. There is a video going to be coming up soon where we're going to talk more about the Authenticate stuff, which I'm quite excited about. So we will not quite sure when it's going to be on the channel, but it'll be here soon. Just centering us up a little bit better than I had done before. Beautiful. What an aircraft. Sounded a little bit like Terry Tibbs there, if you know who Terry Tibbs is. That was very unintentional. Right, let's get going. So I've done the trim, I've got the stick back, I'm going to put some power on, anticipating the torque. A little bit too much on the power there that made it wobbly to start. Sticky wheel syndrome, gear up. we can... Oh, wrong way. I always do that. It's that one. Don't click on the spring. Click on the black and yellow lever, and then it will close. Otherwise, it pings open. Right, quick look. Let's come back on the RPM. Come back on the boost. Temperatures are fine. I'm now going to put radiator flap back to automatic. And there is Kjeller. Yeah, sticky wheel syndrome. I find in this particular rendition of the Spitfire that it has a tendency to, I guess it's the MSFS 2020 physics, but when one wheel has left the ground by a millimetre, the other wheel, it kind of has that kind of, almost like the wheel is stuck to the ground and you've got to lift it off. I really don't know if I'm making any sense there, but hopefully you understand. Gorgeous. Lovely morning here in Norway. Right, let's come back on the RPM. Get us into a nice cruise. Not trying to break any records here for speed. Just have a nice flight. Coming back down. Check T's and P's, all are good. Lovely. And we will get on track. Yeah, really do need to be mindful of the power. There's more than enough power to take off in the Spit, so what I did back there is I was a little bit careless with putting the power on. I tend to, in the manual, in the FlyingIron manual, last time I looked at it, I'm pretty sure it said, I want to say it said between 6 or 8 boost. I actually tend to take off around about 4, not because I'm trying to be different or because I think I know best, but purely because having spent years flying the A2A Mark 1 and Mark 2, boost 4 just somehow feels quite nice and feels kind of what I'm used to, so that's what I tend to do. But what happened there, and it's kind of an indicator of having some time away from the Spit, what I did there was I was a little bit too eager to push that throttle forward, which meant that we had a little bit more torque than we needed to contend with, but it's all good. Once we'd throttled back a bit, the aircraft was behaving nicely. Really is so good to be back in this aeroplane. Look at that. Gorgeous. I'm so excited about Flight Sim 2024 because 2020 still has moments that takes my breath away and looks beautiful. I haven't purposefully haven't downloaded the alpha. Wow. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to know anything until it's completed and they've released it, and hopefully everything is working nicely, and then I'm gonna just dive into it. I think it's going to be wonderful flying warbirds in it. Be interested to see what warbirds are actually up and running and are available. Just out of interest, what are you flying at the moment? I'd be interested to know. Of course, we've had the Focke-Wulf 190 released recently. If you didn't see the video on the channel, if I remember, I'll put a link to that down below. That's a very interesting aircraft to fly. I've had some fun in that. Been actually flying that more recently than any other warbird, but that doesn't mean I've been spending a lot of time in it. I haven't had a huge amount of sim time, so I've been, and a lot of that has been in helicopters. So this is kind of why it's so nice to get back into the Spit again. The scenery is beautiful. Guess it won't be long before a lot of this is going to be covered in white. Interested to see how it's looking in the mountains actually. It's another thing I'm kind of excited about seeing in 2024 is how snow is represented. This is probably being a little bit too pedantic perhaps, but I've always been slightly disappointed with how snowy ground looks. Sometimes more from a distance it looks absolutely beautiful, especially with some good lighting, but I've noticed quite often, for example, flying helicopters where you're getting quite low to it, and sometimes the snow just looks a little bit odd, and the snowy mountains look a little bit like a melted white candle that's got kind of coal dust in it or something like that. So it'd be interesting to see if 2024 has addressed that at all. Not sure how easy a fix it actually is, but looking dead ahead, unless that's just a trick of the light, that almost looks like snow right on the nose, but it'd be interesting to see what it actually looks like. Do a warbird stream actually soon as well. That would be good fun. Just in case you haven't caught them, I do from time to do some live streaming. It's intended to be running HEMS missions in helicopters in the H145, but definitely due a warbird live stream, and that one will be on multiplayer, so if anyone wants to fly along, then you're more than welcome. I usually schedule them, so if you're subscribed, then you'll get a notification for when it's coming up, and then you can come along. And there's just something really special about flying with another warbird on your wing. It really is quite stunning. It's not often I say this, by the way, because I tend to try and leave the cheesy requests out, but if you're not subscribed, please do consider hitting that subscribe button if you're enjoying this video, or if you think you might like this sort of content in the future. The channel is quite niche in that it's not a review channel. It's nothing to do with tube liners or anything like that. It's warbirds, general aviation and helicopters, so it is quite niche, but hopefully if you're watching this, and if you're still watching this at this point, hopefully that means you're enjoying it. So, as they say, hit subscribe, hit like, and all that kind of good stuff. Right, sales pitch over. I hate doing that. I don't often do it, but apparently sometimes you gotta, otherwise people forget. I like to think that if someone likes it enough, they're just going to hit that subscribe button anyway, but there you go. I love how the sun is glinting off the water as we fly next to it. So as you can see, we're getting into the hills now. Now what I thought, oh no, there it is. You can see a bit of snow over there. So we can see some around. course Bergen is on the other side of all this. Nice little valley down there with some villages. It's kind of what I was saying before about 2024, but the scenery in 2020 has always amazed me. The fact that it's so close to reality and you can pick a point and fly over it, and kind of see it pretty much almost as it is in the real world, in a way that I don't think you could ever do with the old flat photo scenery that we used to get. I remember, I forget the brand now, but I remember having photo scenery in FSX and I think P3D as well. Not so much maybe P3D, probably more FSX. But that suffered from flatness. There were no buildings as such, there were no trees as such, and you were literally flying over this 2D photograph scenery. Obviously it had terrain mesh, but you didn't have the 3D objects that made it real. Whereas in this sim it does look fantastic. I had the, again I've forgotten the name for it because it's so long, in P3D I had the Orbex scenery for Great Britain. I wish I could remember what it was called. Was it Central or something like that? But again, it never quite seemed as good as what we have in MSFS. And it's going to be wonderful to see what we have in MSFS 2024, of course. I wonder what my first video in that will be. Still haven't made my mind up. I think largely it's going to depend what's available, but I have to say the only thing that makes me want to buy the premium super deluxe top pack is the high performance group Super Puma. I don't really fly default aircraft, and I keep hearing that the quality of the default aircraft in 2024, because they've worked closer with developers like Got Gravel and HPG, you know, it could be really exciting. Look at that. How beautiful. What a lovely country Norway is. If you know the channel, you know I love flying around mountain areas, and Norway certainly never disappoints. Over the top here. Increase the boost ever so slightly, come back on the RPM ever so slightly. Look down at T's and P's, everything's good. Look at that. Nice little hut by the side of the lake there. I was going to say loch, that's because I spent so much time in Scotland. Let's be careful of the brow of the hill here, getting caught looking at the scenery. Also need to make sure we don't bump into anything. Be a tad embarrassing. So yes, PL258 was born, if you like, in 1944 in Castle Bromwich, and arrived with 331 Squadron in July 1944 at Tangmere, which is where she started her life with the Norwegians. And she certainly saw some action. As I say, I heartily recommend taking a look at the Norwegian Spitfire Foundation website, and also have a look on their have a look on YouTube. There is There's a chap called Knut who has who's their videographer. Knut flew with me on a video in Norseman aircraft over in the Austrian Alps, but Knut is the videographer and has produced some really quite beautiful videos of the aircraft, the other aircraft that they fly, which includes a Harvard. God, I'd love a good Harvard in the sim. We do of course have the T6, but I'm kind of thinking, at the risk of being very, very boring, I'm kind of thinking more in line of the A2A Harvard T6. But that would be just stunning, real study level version. But there you go, you can't have everything. In the same way, I'd love a good P51. If FlyingIron or A2A had done a P51, that would be something quite special. So the trees are definitely thinning out now. Definitely getting into more barren landscape as the height of the land increases. You certainly wouldn't want to be stuck out here in the snow, that's for sure. Norway is just one of those countries where I'm always slightly envious of them. Many years ago I was on a residential course and one of the intakes was from Norway, and they always seemed quite cool, and they have beautiful landscapes. I've done a few videos up in Norway, but not this one, which I've been meaning to do for a long time actually. I don't know if he's going to watch this, but thank you Sprool for bringing out this livery, and my apologies for not featuring it in the video sooner. It's almost criminal. Putting down at T's and P's, everything's good. Long lake coming up. Fair old distance before we get to Bergen. See, this would be great group flight kind of routing and terrain as well. Lots of bumps and lumps and valleys and things to scoot along. I just see on the hills over there in the distance now, I can see some snow as well. pockets of snow up here. Adds to the atmosphere. Need to do another round the world trip at some point. I did one back in P3D. I did the Silver Spitfire route in the A2A Mark II. I was kind of holding out in 2020 in the hope that A2A would bring out their Spitfire, which they sadly haven't done. So I think 2024 I might just have to do it again, and I would I'd do the route in this one, in the FlyingIron Mark 9. I've got a beautiful repaint by a friend, AGL UK Andrew, who's actually a real world pilot as well, and a true enthusiast and historian. He knows more in the tip of his little finger about this kind of thing than I do in my old brain. He did a lovely personal repaint of the Silver Spitfire that he uses, and he very kindly let me use, and you may well have seen it on the channel. I've used it a few times. It's a really nice repaint, and it's the one I would do. It's the one I would use, because I could only imagine flying the round the world in P3D was fun from a flying point of view, using live, or using the historical weather rather, to make sure I was using the same weather that they did on the day and all that kind of stuff. But there were times where the scenery, there was just nothing to look at. It was just repeated texture tiles that looked pretty awful, and I always thought to do it in 2020 with the much improved scenery and more realistic scenery, you'd actually get a much better appreciation of how the country's changed, how the landscape's changed. So it seems like the obvious thing to do, really. But I just need to get round to doing it. I somehow need to figure out how to get more time flying in the sim so that I can do this sort of thing, because at the moment it's ridiculous how little time I'm getting, which is a constant source of frustration, really. But anyway, that's my problem, not yours, and I'm not going to start whinging about it. When I do get a chance to fly, it's always wonderful. Definitely have become a jack of all trades and a master of none, though, which is another reason why I wanted to do this flight, because I used to be able to do a nice curved approach and landing, greasing it on without even really thinking about it. And then as I've gotten used to flying other aircraft and doing other things, I found that whenever I come back to spit, I've just kind of lost that edge. So from time to time I'll take the spit up and I'll do some circuit bashing and just try and get that edge back, and then I'll go off and fly helicopters and things for a while, and then I'll come back to the spit and I'll do the most awful curved approach landing where it's off the centre line and it bounces along and all that sort of thing. And I'll tell you now, that's kind of what I'm fully expecting to happen at the end of this flight. So if you've come here looking for mistakes and things like that, you've come to the right place, that's for sure. Snow-capped mountains over there, and again looks Looks like we've got something in the distance as well. Got the prominent peak just off the nose to the left slightly, which you can see. I would love to tell you where we were, but I'll be quite honest with you, I do not know how to pronounce that. Nordmannslagen is what we're just about to fly over, this piece of water here. Anyone who is from Norway who is watching this, I do apologise for me butchering your wonderful language. I do like the Nordic languages. There's something about the sound of them that I like, but cannot for the life of me pronounce that word fluently. Maybe I need to learn Norwegian. So what have we got in the way of weather? We've got some cloud on the nose, which is fine. I could see that on the map when I loaded up the flight. It was coming in off the coast. Hopefully it won't cause us too many issues. The weather at Bergen was looking pretty good earlier on, but we'll see what comes our way. If it ends up being complete IMC clag, then we will of course have to engage wimp weather, because we are not a modern aircraft equipped with all sorts of wonderful flying aids, and that's just going to end up in tears. It always makes me think, actually, the guys that were doing this for real back in the day, as it were, not only were they contending with trying to make sure they didn't get themselves killed, but also flying in some pretty awful weather at times and getting in some pretty hairy conditions with trying to land and take off. There's a great book of short stories, fiction stories. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Distracted by the scenery as well. Look at that. Yeah, it's Tom Neal is the author, but I can't remember I'm going to have to look it up. It's where is it? Here I can see it on. Yeah, Flight into Darkness. That's it. Flight into Darkness by Tom Neal. I think I bought it some years ago on eBay. Is where I had to get hold of it. But it's got I think there's 4 stories in there, but one of them, without spoiling it, talks about having been being told to take off on a night flight in poor weather, and my lord, reading it, you really feel for them, because as much as that book is a work of fiction, it's apparently based on some things that actually happened, so can't even begin to imagine that. Trying hard not to get shot down and then having to take off at night into very poor weather. So here we are coming into the cloud, but the cloud is at this stage anyway is not too low. Not really worried about that. Quick look at T's and P's and everything's good. Speed is absolutely fine. Nice little cruise. everything is warm and cozy. I just noticed I hadn't put the pitot heat on. Doesn't seem to have caused us any problems because we haven't been flying through any visible moisture. But with this cloud coming up ahead, it just jogged my mind. Normally I would put pitot heat on the ground, just leave it on, forget about it. I've seen some debates before where people are saying they leave it off until they see visible moisture and all that kind of stuff, but I normally just leave it on, so it's unusual for me to not engage it. It's worth saying I do always try and point out my errors on videos. By the way, I'm no expert by any stretch of the imagination, so if you are the type that love to watch videos and point out errors, don't be too quick to leave that comment showing your knowledge, because sometimes, hopefully I've spotted it at some point and will point it out in the video. I'm just playing with the scenery, it's just absolutely incredible, the detail, isn't it? Coming up over the top here. Really are up in the mountains now. Look at that. Default scenery. Incredible. This is an amazing simulator. Isn't that absolutely beautiful? Just amazing. The elliptical wing and the beautiful scenery. Incredible, all these high, tiny little lakes or lochs. You've got the green and the autumnal trees there, and then over here you've got the rock and the ice and the snow. Wonderful. Imagine living there. Must be lovely. Would of course be hard in winter and all that, but it would be beautiful. Wonderful scenery. I'm sorry, I know I keep going on about it, but it's this kind of flying that I love, and it's just an absolute pleasure to see scenery like this. It's kind of scenery you just lose yourself in. You forget that you're in a spare room of your house somewhere other than where you are, and suddenly you're transported up here in the sky. Stunning. Reminds me, I need to do more VR flying. Do you know what? I've not done VR flying in a long time. Mainly because the graphics on 2D are so nice, so sharp, that whenever I get into VR, it's an amazing experience. And certainly flying helicopters around in VR is absolutely stunning. But whenever I'm trying to do anything that involves reading instruments for any length of time and that kind of thing, it's not quite the same. So I've not done it for a while, and since then I've kind of upgraded my setup a bit. I do need to get a new graphics card at some point, and I think probably at that point, when I get a new graphics card, once I've saved up the pennies and all that sort of thing, then that's when I will probably look at doing a bit more of that. I say saved up the pennies, it's also a case of waiting for them to come out, because I've got my eyes on the 5 series, the NVIDIA 5 series, when they launch, which can't be that far off, I don't think. But I'm interested to see. Have nearly pushed the button on a 4090. 4090, look at me. Oh yes, 4090, Golf Tango X-Ray. No, that's 4090. However you want to say it. A couple of times been interested in getting one of those, and then thought, no, you'll spend all that money on it because they're still mega expensive. You'll spend all that money on it, and then the 5 series will come out and you'll regret it. So I'm going to hang fire. Something else I'm really interested to see in 2024 is how mesh comes in, because sometimes in 2020 you get that really quite awful, and it's happening over there to a lesser extent than I've seen in other places, but you kind of get that mesh popping. And being someone who loves being up in the mountains and flying, there you go, it's doing it there, flying up in the mountains, that mesh popping is, for me, is like nails down a chalkboard. So I'd be interested to see if that's improved in 2024. I understand it's probably you see it's happening there, that kind of scenery bubbling as the mesh pops in. And I've got pretty good settings on this, LODs and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, hopefully that's going to be better. So we are not far at all now from Bergen. Flesland. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced. We've got a lot of popping going on down there. In fact, the closer we get to Bergen, the more the popping we seem to be seeing. But still, God, it's gorgeous. The autumnal colours. So look on the map, there's a symbol over there as if there's a castle or something, but to hell with it, let's have a look. Half the fun of flying in the sim is having a look using something like Google Maps and having a look and seeing what's there. So it should be, I've probably come over a little bit too much, let's just rack it round a bit and then come over here, and it should be down there. So we've got a little lake, but I'm not seeing anything in particular. It could be it's just hidden by those trees. It should be. Yeah, I think it's hidden in the trees. The symbol on the map is of like a historical site. Botniaita. Botnahaita. Yeah. Whatever that is, pronounced correctly by someone who knows what they're doing, preferably. So, what do we got? Just looking at the wind now, we've got 9 knots from 198. So again, not too bad. You can see civilization on the nose there. I've done the. I've flown to Bergen a few times. More so, I've done it with my VA, flying the King Air. I don't think I've flown a Warbird across from Scotland. But it's a nice airport to come into because, again, really because of the terrain. Right, well, we are here, so let's have a quick look. So it looks like we're going to be taking runway 17, I should think. So we'll head down and we'll do a run in and brake and then come around and do that curved approach. And let's just see how rusty I've become. Where's the collective lever in this thing? Bumpy runway there, look at that. A little bit of a hill going on there, which I vaguely remember. Right. There we go, windsock confirms what we're looking at. So, let's come back on the throttle, prop fully forward, pushing the speed, pushing our distance. We're going to come over here, give ourselves plenty of time, come back on the power. Good. Kind of feeling I'm a little bit further away than I normally would be. Let's have the gear down now. Flapping the spit is more like a dirty big air brake. Drifting over, go around. That's what I'm talking about. So there, we were just drifting with the wind. I had a quick glance over at little nav map, and it was showing 12 knots. Not crosswind, but kind of just on the quarter there. So need to be a little bit more careful with that, and also came in a little bit high, so I lost the view of the runway. Right, let's come back on the power again. Drop the gear. Oh, and just for the there we go. Drop the flap. This is very messy. Not really helping myself out just by wanging it in like this. Quite high. Let's get the nose over. Try and anticipate that again. Bloody awful is what that was. So that time round we came too far over to the left and landed right on the edge of the runway, which wasn't great, I have to say. So there you go, that's what I'm talking about. Practice, practice, practice. That's what it's all about. And yeah, so on the ground now we've got 11 knots. 11 knots coming over from the left there. So it's not really that hard to contend with. But it's obviously having an effect on the aircraft. And first time round I didn't compensate enough. Second time round I overcompensated. But that's what doing this is all about. It's all about practice. It's all about learning. It's all about, you know, keeping your hand in with these things. Otherwise it would be boring. There you go. You can see the windsock blowing over there with that bit of crosswind. It's what it's all about. And what I've got to do now is figure out a way of trying to find the time to get my Spitfire landings back to where they used to be. That's my challenge. Anyway, it's been absolutely wonderful having you along. Thanks as always for joining the flight. Hope you've enjoyed it. And I look forward to seeing you on the channel again soon. Take care now. Bye bye.